now. You guys, happy Monday to my awesome YouTube family, Wholesale to Million. You guys, I'm bringing a special guest on today. We're doing another subscriber first wholesale deal interview where I bring you guys on where you guys close your first wholesale deal to share your stories and your first wholesale deal. And the reason I do this is to motivate other people and let them know that anyone can do this as long as you are committed and willing to put in the hard work. So if you recently closed your first wholesale deal, drop me a comment and let me know. Let's get you onto the show. And this is the way of giving back, you know, because a lot of times you hear all these people, the people that's already kind of made it up there where they're doing a ton of deals already. But a lot of people get inspiration from those that are just recently started and then recently closed their first wholesale deal. It gives them that belief and that faith that, hey, if they can do it within, 1 month, 3 months or whatever, and maybe I can do it too. So anyways, let's take no further time. Let's help you welcome Jonathan. What up, buddy?
Not much. Thank you. It's awesome. I never thought I would actually be like on one of these videos. Whenever I decided to start wholesaling, like I would watch these videos, right? And I was like, okay, I just got to stay consistent. Do whatever it takes. Just listen to him. He's obviously been doing this a while. So just listen to him, follow the directions. And then I got my deal. And I was like, it's really that easy. Like just literally listen and take action on what Khang says like every day. Like it really is exciting.
Thanks, man. Jonathan, thanks for the kind word. Do you want me to call you John or Jonathan?
No, Jonathan's fine.
Okay, perfect. So you guys, Jonathan just recently closed his first wholesale deal in August for $7,500. Let's dive into it. So Jonathan, take the spotlight and share with everybody. I kind of want to know your story. If you can kind of get into details, kind of financially, where you're at, what's going on, what leads you to your first wholesale deal, and then the whole story of that wholesale deal. Go on.
Okay. Okay, so I started this business with $0. So a bunch of energy and a bunch of time, right? So previously I had 2 marketing agencies. I was doing like social media marketing, and then I realized, okay, you can actually go into real estate without any money down. And so jumped straight into that because that's what I've been wanting to do since high school. I was attending those like Rich Dad seminars, and they'd be like, hey, you can do this. And I was like, oh, that's so exciting. So I started listening to your videos. I did that, and I didn't have a huge marketing budget. So I had a bunch of energy, a bunch of time. I went to my local RIA. I met sort of my first mentor in the business, and his name was Joshua. And he had been doing real estate for a long time. And he said, hey, look, you're good at social media. I'm terrible at social media. I'm good at real estate. You're terrible at real estate. Let's do something together where we can make this work. I said, that's a brilliant idea. I'm definitely going to do that. So using kind of my marketing experience, we were marketing on Facebook, and we would spend he spent like $1,000 and I just spend his money, right? Just on marketing, and we would bring in sellers, right? And it worked. It took like about 1 in every 45 leads that we would get it. And so on average, we would get like 1 hot lead. But the thing is, we didn't close the deal from those leads. So eventually, the leads, for some odd reason, they just didn't go through. And at this point, I'm only marketing, right? I'm not contacting the seller. I'm just doing the marketing, and he has the experience. So once that stopped working, I was like, okay, this is like taking a little too long. A month was in, I was like, I was really wanting to get my first deal by now. And I didn't really have much control over what was happening. I was only getting control over like the marketing aspect. So at this point, I kind of was like getting antsy, right? So I started looking for other ways to contact people, like on Craigslist, like you were mentioning, like go on Craigslist, or maybe go on For Sale by Owner and contact everybody, go on the MLS expired listing. So I started going on Craigslist, and like 24 hours later, after I decided that like, hey, I want to find this first deal, I found this lady. She was selling her house on Craigslist. It was a probate, so she inherited it. She said, I just want to get rid of it. I immediately called Joshua. I was like, Joshua, I found someone who wants to sell. She's super motivated. The house is vacant. She's had it for a while. She just wants to get rid of it. He says, okay. And he takes over, right? He takes over. But I got a little disappointed because I wanted to like learn a little bit more about the business. So that deal ended up closing for and I got like a 12-50 split because I found the deal, but he ended up taking care of everything. So after that, I kept trying to do the same thing, trying to get a little bit more involved with the business. And the same thing happened. So I was like, okay, this time I'm just going to take this 1250 and I'm going to just see what I can do with it on my own. And he was like, okay, dude, have fun. Like, I wish you all the best. Like, let me know how it goes. I didn't spend the 1250 on marketing. So I just kind of spent it on like living expenses, right? So then I met this other person. He had a list, a vacant list, and it was already skip trace. He said, look, man, here's a bunch of people that are vacant. I have no time. I don't have energy to call them. I really don't like cold calling, but you seem like antsy about this thing, so go for it. And I was like, dude, I'll cold call people all day. so I took the list and I literally called maybe like 200 people in like maybe 5 hours, right? And I'd have to call them multiple times because I got a bunch of wrong numbers. And the worst thing about cold calling is getting the person to answer the phone. Well, one person answered the phone, and it was this old lady. I want to say she was about 92, 93 years old. And she was like, hello. I was like, hey, I'm in the area. I'm looking to invest in the area. I'd love it if I could give you a cash offer. And she was like, hey, we're selling the house. We've been trying to sell for a while. Somebody's already gave us an offer. And I was like, no way. Like, let's set something up. So I ended up going to the house the next week. Turns out there was 17 other investors wanting this house. They were just bidding on the house. They're like, no, let me talk to you. No, I'm going to buy it. It was a bloodbath. So everybody bid the house so high. It started at 30,000 and I was like, I'll give you 32,000. And she was like, okay, we'll go with your offer. Here's the contract. She's like, I'm going to send it to my attorney, get it looked over. Well, that's when I found out, hey, there's 17 other people. It ended up going to like 42,000. No. It ended up going to like 52,500. Right. So I ended up getting the final contract at 52.5, and I had to win them over. I mean, I brought $250 cash to the table, just said, here, I'm going to fix the fence because the fence was in terrible condition. They were like, we're going to get a fine if it's not fixed in the next 2 days. The city's going to, take the house. They're going to give us a $500 bill. And I was like, they're not going to take the house. I don't doubt they're going to take the house. Just here's $250 because the property manager was like, hey, I don't have any gas whatsoever. I'm not going to be able to make it for the rest of the week. And I was like, listen, if you can get this contract signed, I'm willing to pay you. I'm willing to help you out. Here's some gas money to kind of cover your time and all of that energy. And I gave him $250 cash, and he was like, okay, I really appreciate it, like, whatsoever. And it felt kind of like a bribe. He was like, he was like, I'm going to get you this contract signed, but I need some cash up front. And I was kind of feeling that's where he was going at. And I was like, okay, I mean, if it means getting the contract, I don't know what's going to happen, but I hope, this comes out a deal at the end. Well, I took it out of the original, like 1,500 or 1,250 that I made from the first little fee that I got from back with Joshua. Took it out of there, gave him the 250. I told him I fixed the fence. So I went over to the house and I looked at it. Nothing was really wrong with the fence. I just fixed a couple posts. I got the contract. The very next day, went to the auction. That was awesome because the auction was the very next day. And I was like, this is awesome. The local deed auction here in Texas. And so, a bunch of cash buyers are going to that auction. They're going to bid on houses. And I was like, there's going to be cash buyers there. I can definitely, let them know, hey, you're paying upwards of 80%, 90% on the dollar for these houses. I can give you this for 70% minus, all of these repairs. So I showed somebody the deal, and it happened to be a New Western acquisitions person. And this is another wholesaler, basically. It's another company that wholesales houses from independent wholesalers, except they're a bigger company and they have a large database of cash buyers. So I was like, at the point, I was like, I'm just going to do whatever it takes to get this thing, closed as soon as possible. I was like, hey, he came up to me. He said, hey, I'm looking for deals. And I was like, dude, I have a deal. It's right down the street. It's 5 minutes from here. Let's go check it out. And he was like, that is awesome. We went and checked out the house. He was like, I want this. What do you want for it? And at the time, it looked what my numbers had come out to. It was like ARV was like 128 minus repairs, ended up to coming out to maybe like 90, right? And I ended up saying, I just want, I ended up going for a big number, right? I wanted 20,000 on this deal. And so I said, I'm really wanting in the area of like 70 to 75. And at this point, we're just kind of gauging. I just wanted to gauge, what he thought about the deal as well, because I didn't have much experience in comping properties, much experience in running the numbers, because I haven't ran a bunch of repairs on houses before. And he was like, okay, yeah, we'll definitely take that. We'll give you, you know, 72.5 for it. So at this point, I'm like, wow, I'm about to make a $20,000 assignment fee on this first deal. And I had to keep everything cool. I was like, okay. And honestly, I had no idea what to do from there. I had zero idea what to do. So he was like, okay, you want to send me the contract? And I was like, oh my God, I don't have an assignment contract. I was like, I don't know what to do. So I was like, yeah. Go ahead and send me your assignment contract. And he was like, okay. So he sent me his assignment contract, and it had an option day period on there. And at this point, I was like, man, why does this guy want an option period? And I was like, maybe he's just going to find another one, hopefully flip it before. And if he doesn't find one, maybe he won't even take it. So I was like, you know, I have good faith in this guy. He's going to do it. Well, it turns out he didn't find a buyer at all. And when the option day came up, it was 2 weeks later, after I had gotten that deal, after we had originally spoken. He was like, okay, 14 days, you know, we're not going to be able to do this. And I was like, awesome. I'm going to have to go find a cash buyer now. I thought I was going to get this taken care of. So then immediately after, I started marketing that thing like crazy. And it turns out that I had estimated the repairs completely wrong. Like, it turns out I had estimated the repairs to be like maybe 35,000, 40,000, and they ended up needing like 55,000. And so I had to mark the price completely down. I ended up marketing it at maybe 60,000 for the assignment. And so 60 minus 52 at this point would be like 7, I don't know, somewhere in that range, right? And someone finally bit like a week later, and it was the same guy. He was like, hey, I got another buyer. He wants the deal at 50. He was like, if you can get me this deal at 50, you know, we can close this thing by Friday. And at this point, I'd marketed to everybody. I had shown the house to multiple people, and I was like, man, I can't get it to you at 50. I have it at 52.5. He was like, dude, you're just gonna have to go back to the sellers and talk to them. And I was like, oh, I've never done that before. I didn't think I was gonna have to do this. And I ended up having to go back to the seller and was like, hey, you know, the crazy thing about this is, oh, I forgot to mention one thing. Between that period, when I showed the house to that same person from New Western, that company that wholesales houses, between that first time and the last time, there had been a major storm in Denton where this house was, and it caused the roof. It was already in terrible condition, but there was a huge hole in the roof. And so at this point, I was like, I don't even know how much that costs. So after he had originally seen that, he was like, okay, you know, there's a huge hole in the roof, but this guy still wants it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get it to you at 50. Went back to the seller, and I was like, hey, you know, there's a huge hole in the roof. We didn't estimate that in the repairs. You know, it's going to be really difficult for us to get this at 52.5. Would you consider 42.5? And at this point, they were like, you know, what happened? And I had to explain to them, well, you know, before there wasn't a hole in the roof, and now there's a hole in the roof, and it's going to cause a big damage. And they were like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So I got it signed. I had to drive to Midland, Texas. From where I'm at right now, it's like a 5-hour drive. And I drove there. I had to get it signed by the other seller, because the first time she had signed perfectly here in Fort Worth, where I'm located. But now she was in Midland, so I had to drive that way. And I got back like 1 a.m., got it signed, immediately sent it to the buyer. He was like, okay, we're closing on this. And his buyer deposited the funds like 3 days later. We all showed up at title, and we got our checks. And it was it was nuts. I had no idea, but I learned so many lessons, literally failing forward like that. Like, I knew that was going to happen from the moment that I was with Joshua, and I was like, dude, I'm going to have to like branch out on my own, but I'm going to fail so many times. Like, it's what's necessary in order for me to get this business going and get it growing. And that's exactly what happened. Like, I failed so many times, but I wouldn't have been able to get that deal if I wouldn't have. And dude, now it's awesome. Now I have so much confidence to go get another deal. And like, literally, like you were saying, it like, you get one deal, and then it gives you the confidence to go get another and another, and then 5 more, and then 10 more, and then until you get to a point where it's just you have systems and processes in your business, and it's really great, dude. I wouldn't, and you, like, without your help, without like your daily inspiration and without your like daily tips, like how to speak with them. Okay, if this happens, you're gonna have to go speak with the seller, like you're gonna have to go renegotiate with them. And I was like, man, I have to go find a video. Like, I don't even know what this would be titled. Like, how do you find this? So it was nuts. It was nuts, man.
Jonathan, dude, I want to say congrats, and I want to say very well said, man. You took actions. You know you're gonna make mistakes, and you're failing forward. And also too, it's just like you said, man. It's about getting that first deal, because that first deal will give you that 92 gas, right? It'll give you that. It'll give you that gas, you guys. That it makes you believe it. Like whatever you think was kind of not like it's kind of not real to you. And once it becomes real, then you know that, man, if I can make 1,000, I can go and make 100,000. If I can make 100,000, then I can make 1,000,000 in this business. So nice job, man. Congrats, dude.
That's so true. That's so true. Like whenever I picked up the check, right, and I looked at it and I was like, man, that's $7,500. And I was like, I wonder if I could just do more now. I was like, because I was originally anticipating 20, and I was like, I looked at it and I was like, that's a lot. I was like, 7,500 for like a deal. Like, I haven't made that much money ever in my life, like in one check. And then I was like, dude, like now imagine what else is possible. Like, imagine if I knocked out 2 or 3 in a month, or you have no idea. And literally, like what Khang says every day is like, it's just self-explanatory. Like if I just listened and I took action. So if Khang was like, hey, if you just spend, you have to make a commitment for the next 30 days, just spend 2 to 3 hours a day contacting sellers on for sale by owner, whether it's writing letters. I still do that. I'm still going to do that. And I write their address, and I put my mailing address, and then I'll go to a local FedEx. I'll get it printed. Hey, I'd like to buy your house at so-and-so street. I'll mail it 2 to 3 hours every single day. And like, if you just listen and implement what's being said, I guarantee you there is no way you will fail unless you purposely decide to say, hey, I'm quitting. Like I thought about it and I was like, there's no way that I can fail at this business unless I consciously decide that I'm going to say, I'm quitting. There's just no way. And 24 hours later, after I watched that video, all I did was take action and massive action, call the entire list, and that person picked up. And I was like, oh my God, it worked. It worked.
Awesome, man. Jonathan, dude, congrats, man. So I got a couple of questions for you, Jonathan.
Dude,
so where were you, do you have the check?
Oh yeah. Well, I deposited it, but I have like a scanned copy.
Show it to us, man.
Yeah.
And after we're done, dude, send me a picture with you and the check, and then let's use that for a thumbnail. But I got a question. So within 24 hours, you made 200 cold calls.
Yeah, it was insane. Well, it was like, I don't know the exact number, but it was a lot. It was around that range. It was it was in between the range from 200 to 400. And now that's a big range. I'm gonna be honest. That's a big range, but like I make now like at least, because I'm getting Mojo Dialer, right? And I've learned that you can triple your calls with like the shortest amount of time. So it literally calls 3 people at 3 numbers at once, and you triple your effectiveness. So now I'm able to call 3 people at once. And if if 2 people answer the phone, it plays a message for the other person, and I get to speak to the other person. So like,
very cool.
Yeah, dude, it's awesome. And
very cool. I didn't know that.
It's extremely low cost per lead, extremely low. So you end up paying like $139 a month for this thing, but you get 3 lines. And if that person picks up the phone, 2 people pick up let's say all 3 of them pick up the phone. You're going to speak with one person, and the other 2 people, it's going to play a message saying, hey, and then it just cuts off, and they think that, something happened to the line or something hung up. And so immediately after you're done with that first call, the software immediately calls the other person and then says, hey, sorry about that. I think we got cut off. And then you continue the conversation. And when that one's over, you hang up that one and immediately dials the other person that answered the phone and says, hey, sorry about that. The line cut off. I think we got disconnected. How are you doing? And
Oh,
so
very cool. Very
it's
cool.
awesome.
Very cool, man.
It's amazing.
Show us the check, dude.
Here's that check, man. I mean, it was crazy. And I was like, I got it. I immediately texted my mentor, and I was like, dude, I'm taking you for steak. We're gonna go eat. I was like, dinner is on me. And he was like, dude, that's awesome. Like, I'm so proud of you. And I was like, I wouldn't have been able to do it without you. Thank you very much. We're getting dinner.
Nice, man. So
it's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. So your mentor, Jonathan, is in the same, or I'm sorry, what's his name? Joshua. So he's in the same area as you?
Yeah, so I'm located here in Fort Worth, and he's in Arlington. So it's about 10-15 minutes from here.
Cool, man. So we don't. So now I guess I want to know is how big is the house? So because that way people kind of get an idea of what repair needed. How big is this house?
Yeah, it was a 3-1, like 928 square foot.
And
address was
everything.
Yeah, it needed everything. I mean, this house was in terrible condition. Like it had been vacant for at least 3-4 months. And so the property manager, the person that I had to pay cash for, he was showing me the house, and he was like, I'm just going to warn you, there's poop in the house from animals getting in the house. And I was like, look, man, I'm ready for anything. You throw anything at me, I'm going to get like in my head, I was like, this deal's getting done. I was like, I don't care if there's 50 people bidding on this house. I will find a way to get this house. And it ended up happening. So, I mean, I walked through the house. The floor was caving in from the roof being so bad. It was already starting to leak, right? And it started leaking a little bit. But then the serious thunderstorm came 2 weeks later, and there was a huge hole in the roof. I took a picture. I showed the seller. I was like, hey, look, this is now happening. So, like, we're going to have to do something here. And she was like, yeah, I understand. So, yeah, I needed everything.
Awesome. So, Jonathan, let's kind of wrap everything up a little bit here. But what kind of tips or advice would you give to those that are? And the thing is, you guys got to understand here. Jonathan made over 200 calls until you get a deal. I get people email, comment, text, from whatever they can connect with me and saying, hey, I haven't got any deals. But then when you ask them, oh, I only made 30 calls. Oh, I only made 40 calls. I only made 50 calls. And they're like, oh, it's not working. So you guys got to understand that every marketing channel is working. It all comes down to, are you working? Are you being consistent and persistent and just keep on going and going and going and going? So anyways, Jonathan, if you were to give an advice to those that are starting out, they are obviously struggling, frustrated, overwhelmed, how did you overcome and then were able to continue and then getting your deals?
I would say if somebody is struggling to get a deal, or if they're still on that brink of hitting that first deal, I would say just maybe take a second and like pause for a moment and reevaluate everything you're doing and say, are my standards of effort, are they equal to the amount that I think is necessary to get that first deal? So what you think is necessary to get that first deal, it may be different than what is actually required in order to get that first deal. And for me, I know that changed when I would make 30 calls a day, and it would take like an hour, or 2 hours just to make 30 calls, because each name would have 3 or 4 phone numbers, and I have to call 30 different people. And if, I'd spend another 2 minutes getting just that ring, and then just to find out, 2 minutes, a minute later, nobody answers. So it takes a lot of time, but you have to really evaluate what's going on and say, okay, look, 30 calls obviously wasn't enough to get that deal. Do I have to double my effort, triple my effort? Do I have to 10x my effort? Like, what do I have to do here in order to get this first deal? So like really evaluate what's happening. And a lot of people think like, oh, I personally thought, hey, I'm only going to have to do X. I'm only going to have to do X in order to equal a deal. And it turns out I have to do 10X what I have to do in order to get that deal. So really think, hey, am I doing what's necessary to get that deal? How many calls is that happening? And like you were saying, every marketing way works. It works. It just matters of being consistent and persistent, and just do whatever it takes in order to get it done.
Great, Jonathan. Thanks, man. That's a great tips. Now, I guess the one question I forgot to ask you is, how long did you start? Was it 2 months, 3 months after you got your deals?
So it's September the 9th, 10th right now. I started in like June, because I got back.
Dang, dude. Within 3 months?
Yeah, dude, I told you, like, it was extreme persistency. And like, I'm doing this, like, I committed like in June. Like, I was like, okay, because I had known about it, right? I had seen a little bit of your videos, but I'd never, like decided to take action. I'd seen, oh, like that's possible. And I'd followed other people in the real estate industry. And I was like, oh, that's possible. And then I'd be doing my marketing stuff. And I got back. And in June, I was like, like, I can do this. Like, I can do this. So I just started, taking action on whatever video I saw. And like, it was like 3 days or 4 days later, like from June, like it was like June the 2nd or June the 3rd. And that's when I had contacted that seller on Craigslist.
Yep.
And that's when I got that first deal. And that deal took like a good 30 days. So at the end of June, I had gotten like $1,500 or like $1,250. And then July the 2nd, that's when I had gotten that list. And so that deal closed and I was like, okay, it's time to go find another one. Or it's time to branch out on my own. And so like July the 2nd, I had contacted that vacant list. And so that's when I got that deal. And like, I know for a fact that what led to those deals was in between the start of those months. So between July and like July the 3rd or July the 4th, the only thing in this head was like, get a deal, like get a deal, get a deal, get a deal. I woke up and I'd watch a video, or if I was in the car, it'd be a podcast, like just podcast, right? Like Wholesaling Inc., your videos on YouTube, just obsessing myself over the topic of wholesaling. And in 2 days, it just happened. Somebody said, hey, I have a vacant list and I really don't feel like calling anybody, but here you go. And I was like, awesome. I was like, how did that happen? But I got a deal out of it. And then it's just crazy what can happen when you surround yourself with one topic. It's crazy.
I agree, man. I agree. You have to be obsessed with it. Eat, sleep, whatever you do. All you do is think about that one thing. So now I want people to understand, Jonathan. How many hours were you putting out per day, dude?
Oh, like at least 10 to 11. At least 10 to 11. At least. I wake up. So every day. It's still like that today. I wake up at 5. I do my little morning routine. I start work at 7. At 7, I'm doing the most important thing, whether it's figuring out how can I spend 95% of my time on income producing activity. And then from 9 to 11, I'm cold calling. And then between 11 to 4, I'm doing whatever's next most important in the business. And then from 4 to 6, I'm cold calling again. So 9 to 11 a.m., I blocked 2 hours specifically for calling people. And then from 4 to 6, another 2 hours specifically calling people. And in between those, I'm figuring out, okay, how can I do more? How can I start hiring people? Or how can I make sure that what I'm doing right now is being documented so I can teach it to another person so that we can double our amount of effectiveness? And it's like, I'm spending so much time on this business that I'm learning so much so fast. And at the same time, I'm taking action. Like I've blocked off 4 hours of my day specifically for calling, and then I mail a very specific list on the 1st of every month. And I got a lead from it. It was awesome. And I was like, marketing works. Like it just works. Like what Khang says works. And I truly could, like, I just want to thank you. Like I wouldn't have been able to do it without you. So
no,
like,
man. It's all you, Jonathan. It's all you, man. You listened. You took massive action, dude. Congrats. Kudos to you, man. That's so awesome. And for those of you who are only doing 2-3 hours and you're doing for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and you haven't seen results, compare yourself. Jonathan probably is self-independent, so he was able to put more hours into this business. Maybe for some of you, you're having 2 jobs or you're having 1 full-time job, so you can't put out 10 to 11 hours per day. But what it is what I'm sharing with you from Jonathan here is that's how much hours, effort, and commitment it's going to take to succeed, you guys. Yeah. And all you need to do is think about getting your first wholesale deal done. Does not matter the amount. just get it done, because it will fuel you up so much that it'll lead you on to do multiple. So it doesn't even matter if you your first deal you lose on 5 or 10 or 7,000 to that buyers, and you made like 1,000 or 2,000. Doesn't matter. Close it, get it done, so you know the process.
If I could just add one thing, I know you were saying it's definitely not necessary to work like 10 to 12 hours a day. Like if you just like, I only dedicate 2 hours in the morning to calling, and then at night from 4 to 6 I'm calling them that same people again, because some people don't answer, but I get people answering on the phone. So if you could just do 2 hours every single day, like calling like I am, from either from 9 to 11 or from like 4 to 6, like that's either at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day. So maybe if you're working an AM shift, you could do the 4 to 6 p.m. Or maybe if you're working a PM shift, you could do the 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And so it really just matters of like, you have to want it more than anything. And you'll find ways. When you make that commitment, you will literally find ways to make it happen. So I just kind of wanted to add that. It doesn't require
Jonathan, very, very well said, man. So, hey, I know that you have to drive out to the seller. Is it because the seller doesn't have an email?
Yeah, she had no idea how to work.
Okay, that's why. So that's why you couldn't get her to sign electronically, correct?
Yeah. No, I was like, hey, do you guys do email? And they're like, I'm sorry. And I was like, email, and they're like, no, I don't do email. And I was like, okay, that's fine. It's all right. It's a new experience. So I haven't been to Midland, so we're going to make it work. So I drove to Midland.
Awesome, man. So, Jonathan, how do people, so for those that want to, or maybe in your area or want to reach out to you and connect with you, what are some things so they can connect with you?
You can find me on Instagram and at Facebook at Jonathan Aguilar, JONATHAN, Aguilar, AGUILAR. So, yep. And I go to my local RIA too. I mean, I love that thing. You always meet new people there, and you meet new people that are are 10 times ahead of you, and you meet new people that are just starting. So you can make both connections. You can help the people that have been where you're at, and you can also learn from those that have been where you have been. So I mean, it goes both ways. Whenever I go there and I meet new people that are saying like, hey, I want to get into wholesaling, and I was like, dude, get into wholesaling. I was like, do it. Like, I will help you. Like, let's schedule lunch. And it's awesome. So we get to help, and we get to get help.
Awesome. So there you guys go. I will make sure I'll put Jonathan, Instagram, and Facebook in the description. And if you guys want to reach out and connect with him, go to the local RIA. And what's the name?
Khang too. Follow Khang too on his Instagram, dude.
Yeah.
That's how I reached out to Khang. It was on IG. So I mean, you're posting great things too. So I mean, it's awesome. You guys got to follow him.
Thanks, man. Yeah, if you guys want to follow me on IG, it's Khang.WTM, Wholesale to Million. I'll put that in the description as well. And also too, is you guys local RIA, if they want to go reach out. What's the name?
Like DFW Real Estate Investment Association, and then just Google that if you're in DFW. And it's awesome. There's tons of people that go every day, or not every day, like every week.
Yeah. Wait. They have one every week?
No, it's every,
like once a month, right?
Yeah. It's like once at the first Tuesday of the month, or it's like once. Yeah. But you guys can find the details if you just Google it on. And there's one other thing that got me started was going to meetup.com and seeing tons of meetups in the area. There's just so many people having meetups and groups that there's a wholesaling mastermind in my area. And the thing was completely booked. And I saw it and I was like, man, I have to go to this. There's no way I can miss out on this. So it said get on the waiting list. And I was like, I'm on the waiting list. I was like, no, I can't be on the waiting list. So I show up to the thing. And I get there early because I wanted to get a seat. And the thing's completely packed by the time it starts. And everybody's like, there's people that don't have seats. And I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm going to be honest. I was on the waiting list and I showed up anyways. But you can definitely have my seat. I definitely shouldn't be here right now. And they're like, that's all right. Just stay here. You don't have to give up your seat. And I was like, okay, awesome. I'm just glad to be here. Dude, there's tons of groups that you guys can go to in your area. People are having investment groups. They tell you about buy and holds if you're trying to do that. But wholesaling, I immediately knew that I had to go to this mastermind. So there's masterminds all over your area.
Awesome. Jonathan, hey man, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming on to share your stories, inspire other, motivates other, and it's a way of giving back, man. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Dude, thank you.
Have a great rest of your day, buddy.
You too, man.